Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here at the Patriot Desk. Welcome on this special broadcast Tuesday night here in the United States of America on the East Coast. Well, we've come on a Tuesday night because we have so many requests from candidates in the United States to come on. We certainly want to keep our Canadian friends updated on what's going on in their country. But from time to time, we will have a special broadcast like this. Monday nights, every Monday night, we're going to be addressing America's political issues. And every Thursday night at 7 p.m., we're going to be addressing Canadians' political issues. And of course, this Thursday night, we're going to have Pastor Arthur on to give his account of how in the world he ended up in a situation he would have never imagined, all because he exercised his rights to free speech. So we're going to open up the broadcast with Michael Byrne. Now, I had Mike on a couple of weeks ago. Michael Byrne is the New Jersey director of the Mike Crispy for Congress campaign. Now, why am I having Michael on? Well, Mike, I've got to tell you, I continue to hear from people in the 4th Congressional District. I've been in that district. Your candidate is running against almost a 50-year, right? 50-year, 5-decade incumbent.
42.
Is that true?
42
years. 42 years. And of course, we believe in term limits. Mike Crispy, he's been a gentleman. He's made it pretty clear that it's time to move on with regard to certain elected officials. And Mike, I've got to tell you, it's ironic because it was a Democrat, John F. Kennedy, who said the time has come to pass the torch to a new generation of young people when he became president. And I would hope that Chris Smith and others who have served that long would heed the words of John F. Kennedy to pass that torch. But tell us what's going on with your campaign. And I know you have an event tomorrow night and I believe next week. And my wife and I, Natasha and I, will be at those events.
Well, it's fantastic, Stephen. Thanks for having me on again. We've had, since I was on last time, a great couple weeks. Just last week, because Mike Crispy was able to put a team together in both Monmouth and Ocean counties, he was able to compete for the preferential ballot position, which is kind of a unique phenomenon in New Jersey. And in any event, he will appear in the first position in column A with the entire team. We call it the America First Republicans in both counties. And so that was a little bit of a coup. We had a lot of work went into that in terms of recruiting candidates, qualifying them for the ballot, building support for them for different offices, county commissioner and sheriff and so forth. And so we're thrilled to have a full team running with us in both counties. And actually in Ocean County, Mike actually recruited over 70 county committee running mates. And so going forward, some of these folks, hopefully all of them, will get elected to the county committee in June. And that's basically, if you've heard of the precinct strategy that Steve Bannon has talked about a little bit, or Roger Stone and so forth, that's the same thing. These are the county committee members, the lowest position within the Republican Party, where you can begin to make change in terms of what the party stands for and what the beliefs are and what kind of candidates they advocate for. So we're thrilled about what's been going on. As you said, we do have an event tomorrow. The America First candidates for Monmouth County have an event at Spring Lake Manor. And then next week on the 29th, the America First Republicans for Ocean County have an event in downtown Toms River. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. And I certainly encourage anybody who wants to learn more about Mike to visit MikeCrispy.com, make a comment to help support the campaign. And as I say, learn more about him there or on Facebook.
Mike, one more thing before you go. In a few minutes, I'm going to have Dave Dolan on. He's a Canadian citizen. He is actually the Campaign for America representative in Canada now. And we're going to give our Canadian friends an update on what's happening there. The grassroots movement that Mike Crispy and your team have put together is something that is of a success. And a lot of Canadians have asked us, well, how can they address the establishment and the political problems they're facing? So I just would ask you to share with them some words of encouragement, because it is working here. And unfortunately, they don't get much of the news here. But I'm sure you started from scratch like they are, but now you have a very successful, real successful campaign against those in power.
There's no doubt about it. And without getting into sort of the parliamentary form of government that Canadians have, a little different than we have, you always start, I think, with issues that galvanize people. And well, fortunately or unfortunately, there are a lot of issues right now that are of significance to free people, whether it's medical freedom, parental rights, the right to travel, in terms of the truckers and what they went through and so forth. Start with those galvanizing issues, build build constituencies, groups of advocates within your own community, network on social media, and grow your influence and your relationships in your cities and towns in Canada and your provinces and so forth. And I think it's really that organization around galvanizing issues that will drive people to the polls. We're counting on, although this is a type of year where it's a relatively low turnout election in New Jersey, without a governor or a senator on top of the ticket. The highest office is Congress. We think that there's probably going to be a bigger turnout than would normally happen in this kind of cycle, because a lot of people are very upset about what's been going on particularly in terms of what's going on in schools and medical freedom, the vaccine issue, the masks, and so forth. And people are tired of being pushed around. And so when you can tap into those pockets of people that really want to stand up for their rights, their natural rights, their rights to locally organize, to worship as they see fit, to go to church, to go to their synagogue and their temple and so forth, and not be told by the government that they can't. That's where you're going to have the best opportunity to get people motivated and to make change.
Well, I thank you, Mike. Dave Dolan, as I said, a Canadian citizen who's our rep up there now. He'll be on the air in a few minutes with us. And we're going to share with the Canadian citizens an action plan. Because, we all, each night, we go over and over the problems and the difficulties that we're facing. Of course, you turn the news on and you hear the same old story on the news. But the question always asks, well, what are we going to do? How do we address these? And you just summarized that in a very good way. Well, Mike Byrne, thanks a lot. My wife and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. And I think we're going to have a great time, and appreciate you coming on board tonight at short notice. Thank you very much, Mike Byrne.
Appreciate you. Onward and upward.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to, in a minute or so, we're going to switch over to Dave Dolan, the Campaign for America rep in Canada. A couple of things I'd like you to know. Now, a little bit later, after Dave and I share with you exactly what we're going to do to help the Canadian residents, we're going to have a little bit of an intermission, and then about 7:45, if you're still with us, we're going to have a guest, the 6th Congressional District congressional candidate, Jake Evans. He's going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about what he's doing. And folks, here's something I'll encourage you to do also, and then I'm going to ask Dave to come on. If there's anyone running for office or wants to run for office in your country, in Canada, let Dave know. Let Dave Dolan know, all right? You could email us, and we send the emails directly to him, and we'll have those candidates come on, all right? There's nothing wrong with them speaking to the issues that you're facing to the entire world. I mean, won't that be a problem for Mr. Trudeau? Huh? What do you think of that? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming now our Director of our Canadian Political Affairs and Policy, Dave Dolan. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for your interest in Canada. We appreciate all of your support.
You believe me, we appreciate what you all have been doing in Canada, because you're holding the line. I've got to tell you, I've seen political battles come and go, but not like this. And the side of victory is on the side of the people.
Yes.
Now I understand that one question, you may not know the answer to this, but did Trudeau come here to the United States? I believe he was scheduled to come here.
That's what I had heard. I'd heard that too, but I didn't follow any coverage because I don't watch the I sort of don't watch the left-wing corporate media.
Yeah, so Well, I believe he came. He came and went, and I know that not only myself but other Americans tweeted out that he's not welcome to this country, and he isn't. And I found it appalling that the United States government, although we have a communist sympathizer in the White House, for goodness sakes, but I find it appalling that any country that's free prior to Joe Biden, the United States, would allow someone who embraces the ideology of Marx, Lenin, and Stalin on their soil. But it's amazing. Nobody seems to know. Maybe he, came in the middle of the night, like Obama sent to Iran a plane load of cash. Maybe Trudeau came out of the back door of a small plane and snuck into the White House or wherever he was going. So, but my point is, it goes to show you that that guy's not popular here in America. I can tell you that.
And he's not popular here in Canada either. He's got I think it's about less than 16%, and less than 6% strongly support what he's doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are really, well, those who support him in your parliament ought to think twice before they wrap their arms around him, because their days are numbered. Their days are numbered. All right. You and I, Dave, had talked about a few things. We've talked about truth. We've talked about transparency. And so there are a lot of emails I get. Now we're forwarding a lot to you, and you're beginning to see the flavor of a lot of misinformation that people may be latching onto. So I'm going to ask you to begin with any topic you want in relation to some information we've received. And then let's talk about an action plan.
Right. So some of the things that are shared on Facebook and other social media, Twitter, sometimes there's some truth to it, sometimes there's not truth to it. When you're talking about legislation, it's particularly hard because people have different interpretations. I'd seen something written about Bill 15, which was recently passed. I think it was unanimous in Quebec, and it was dealing with family law, about basically the family relationships. And there's some thought that it basically takes away the family parental rights. Now, I don't know. I haven't read the entire act. Unfortunately, it's difficult. The part that I came across was in French, but I'm certain there's an English version. And I saw in the chat somebody was talking about Bill 15. It's of concern. So if somebody has some good information on it, I'd like to hear about it. But what you have to be careful about is that your information is verifiable. It is good information. So you can't exactly just reshare a post that you've seen, because that can do more damage to the truth. You need to have the truth out there, and people are making decisions. It loses all credibility, especially if you're conservatives, and to be sharing stuff that's inaccurate.
Dave, we have found in America that the left and some other people, self-serving people on our side, have purposely sent out misinformation to advance their own political agenda and then to divide us. And so it's important that we all come together and say, gee, I wonder what this is about. So, Dave, we could certainly invite people to email you, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Like a fact check and to see what's right or wrong. So
I'd like to hear about legislation that I don't catch. And I would also like to hear from people in Canada about what their schedule is as far as elections are concerned. Their municipal elections, their school board elections. I live in Manitoba, and Manitoba is this fall, there'll be elections in both school division, school boards, and municipal elections. So mayors, rees, and councillors.
So, folks, this is how you can get in touch with Dave, and I'll repeat it again a little later. You see that campaignforamerica.com, right? That's our website. Go to our website. You'll see a contact page, your name, your email, and in the narrative, just put Dave. Just put his name on there, and whatever information you want to give him, we could quickly, in fact, automatically have that forwarded to him. And believe me, he's been so committed and dedicated to this. And as I said when we first started this journey with Canada, we're not letting go. We're going to do the best we could to help the Canadians fight what we believe to be, and when I say we, I really know it's a majority of American people. We believe that Trudeau is clearly a national security threat to this country from our northern border. And saying that, Dave, now we in America know, and we're beginning to let our people know, that the Chinese Communist Party has been deeply engaged in a lot of our politics, our educational institutions, our workplaces, and on and on and on. This has been going on for quite some time. Unfortunately, nobody here has been paying attention until lately. And the one issue that had brought all of this to a point where now the Americans are paying attention is Canada. Because now that we're getting the word out about Canada, people in America are scratching their heads saying, what's going on here? Now, you and I had a discussion earlier, and it needs to be addressed. And the Americans that are watching, all right, and the Canadians that are watching, please listen carefully. I had a question for you, Dave, and you found the answer. And the question was about China.
Yes.
Is there any evidence or facts that there have been Chinese troops, training or otherwise, on Canadian soil?
Well, it was first reported by Rebel News in Canada. Then there was further articles that were written about it where they made a Freedom of Information request, and Trudeau had admitted to the fact that there were troops training. In fact, troops training. We didn't get the numbers, but I've heard high numbers, really high numbers. But they were in British Columbia, so that'd be on our west coast. So they're in Vancouver Island, and I sent you a video of them where they're actually, marching down the road. So that was a small group of them, and the whole story was that they came here to train for winter. I mean, they have winter in China, northern China. They have the same winter as we do, so I found that really odd. But yes, that is a factual story.
Well, here's what we're going to do, Dave. With that, I got to tell you, I've asked around. I know a lot of politicians in the Congress, in the Senate, and around, and they had no idea. No, they thought I was joking with them. So now what we'll do is we're going to get that information to our elected officials. Also, what I'm planning to do, Dave, is I have some of the addresses, and offline, I'll ask you to get me some addresses to a few members of your parliament, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send this information to them and ask for an explanation. And of course, to them, I'm a nobody. I don't expect that. But I'm going to ask some of them to come on this broadcast. On Trudeau's side, I'm going to ask them.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So if you could get me their addresses, I'll compose, you and I, we could compose a letter, maybe coming from a Canadian citizen like yourself, it'll have more weight. All right.
Our defense minister would be the one to answer that. Sergeant Singh, he should be the fellow that you should get on there, but I can give you all that information.
All right. Then we'll collaborate on it, because to them, I'm just one of those ugly Americans that should stay south of the border. So, all right. So now, Dave. So there have been Chinese troops in Canada training, probably for the Winter Olympics, because that's all they're good for at this point. So
it was a few years ago, actually. This isn't a news story. This has been going on for some time now.
Well, this is shocking. I mean, it really is stunning to have Chinese communist troops on the soil of a free nation in a very short distance from the United States of America. Yes. Boy, I'll tell you, the things that our governments hold from us. And folks, this is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a lie. It's not exaggerating. The evidence is there. And what we intend to do, as I said, we will always take action in regard to protecting the United States of America and Canada. We're that closely partnered. Now, what about the issue? I did talk to a congressman last week about the issue of your citizens not being able to either come into America, or if they're in America, they can't get back into their own homeland without a vaccine. Could we straighten that situation out?
So there's a number of people that I know that are not vaccinated, and it's just like a lottery of who you're going to get and what kind of questions they're going to ask you at the border. So, for example, if I was to cross, I'd be crossing over the North Dakota border. If you happen not to ask, then he would just have a good day and away you'd go. But if he happens to ask you if you're vaccinated, you can't lie. So you'd actually have to have proof. They don't necessarily ask you for the proof, but you have to have the proof. If you said you were vaccinated, you'd have to be able to support it with your Vax Pass, which is on your cell phone usually. So there's people that have crossed over that have gone for winter vacation, gone down to Arizona, for example. And I heard of one fellow, I was aware of a fellow that came back just recently. He didn't get asked the question when he crossed over to go down to Arizona, but when he came back, they questioned him on the Canadian side. And because he wasn't vaccinated, couldn't support the vaccination, they basically said that he had to go home, he had to self-isolate for 14 days, and that the fine would be, and I heard one number of 750,000 and 6 months in jail. And then I heard if somebody was to get sick because of him, it would be $1 million and 3 years in jail. And they treated him like a criminal. So I looked it up to see if there was actually a quarantine law. And yes, in fact, there is a quarantine law, and that talks about the penalties. So he got treated like a criminal. And I mean, they have to let you into the country. I mean, that's what I would tell people. So, for example, if somebody from Canada wanted to go down to the States right now, the best thing to do is to go through Montana, because there's a law that was passed there to make it illegal to even ask the question. So, I mean, that's what you have to do. So it is dicey. It's for the vaccinated. Now, the vaccinated have no issue. It's the non-vaccinated. So they don't even have to isolate. They could be sick. They don't even care. Like it's just because they don't even require testing anymore.
Dave, you know what's astounding to Americans here? It appears that the entire White House staff have the disease. They have the COVID, and it's amazing because they all got vaccinated once, twice, three times.
Yeah.
Now they're talking four times. So all these people vaccinated are getting COVID, and we're finding that those who aren't vaccinated seem to have this natural immunity. Now, of course, you hear the fact checkers and Twitter world. I know you're watching, and Facebook. I know you're monitoring us. So again, this is not a fact. Okay, I just want to get that straight so you don't cut us off and you don't violate our rights. Well, with regard to Twitter, you guys should be sitting on the edge of your seat because if Elon Musk buys you, you're out of work. I remember what I told you, Twitter world people. You're doomed. You're doomed. Okay, you're going to be out of a job, and you're not going to be able to find a job anywhere on this planet. Because as soon as you put in your reference that, your work history, that you work for Twitter, you're done. So sit back, enjoy it. Maybe you'll come to our side one day. But for the sake of the facts, in my view, okay, not factual, the science isn't working. In my view, the science doesn't work. We said follow your instinct. If you want to get a vaccine, fine. If you don't, fine. But the government should never be involved in the personal affairs, especially the medical health affairs of any human being on the face of the earth. That's between the human being, the patient, doctor privilege.
Right.
What do you say, Dave Dillon?
Well, I think that the fact is there is plenty of information that tells you exactly what the science is, but they don't want to let anybody talk about it. So there's no forum for it. So anytime you challenge the narrative, they're going to censor you. That's the only thing they can do. So the 9 pages that came out that was released for the Pfizer data, it showed you how harmful it in fact really is. So the science is, they say follow the science, but they won't show us the science. So all of these cases that are before the courts, as far as I know, they're not even challenging the narrative. They're not challenging the PCR test. They're not challenging natural immunity. They're not challenging this. How about asymptomatic spread? So it means that you're healthy, so you're not sick, and they're saying that you can spread COVID. How is that possible? It's not possible. So you can't even get scientists on there. I'd really like to see some people come on here and explain it to some people, because there is no forum for it. Whenever you want to talk about it, there is no forum. Who are you going to talk to? You can't. It's just like trying to talk to people about the World Economic Forum. There's nobody, no MP will even talk about it.
Well, how about this? How about a lot of Americans, and here we go, well, the lack of communication, but we're doing it now. A lot of Americans had no idea there was a WEF. A lot of them didn't even know what the initials meant.
Well, they should know about the Agenda 2030 that was signed in, I think it was Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
I mean, and you guys are signed up for it the same as we are. The conservative Prime Minister Harper signed us up for it about a month before Trudeau took over. So it's all there. And that's the whole thing about the climate change, the Go Green. Every time you hear anything about that, it's all tied back to that 2030 agenda.
Here's what I'm finding with regard to my country, which I dearly love, and I will defend it till my death. But I find that what has happened here, Dave, is that we've been, number one, we've been blessed by God. The freedom here is like nowhere on earth. During the Reagan years, it was just fantastic. I mean, absolutely fantastic. He virtually almost did away with welfare. Everybody was going to work. People had money in the bank. Then time went on, and of course, Bill Clinton came in. Bill Clinton wasn't a bad president. He balanced the budget. He did things that certainly I wouldn't support, but basically he didn't disrupt much of what Reagan did. But then Obama came in, and things started to go downhill, and now we have Biden. Now, the only gap in between all that was Donald Trump, who brought us back. He brought the economy back, self-sufficient energy. I mean, Trump did a fantastic job as president. I don't know where we're headed at this point, but I could tell you this. We have been so distracted by some of these issues, these problems that are developing around the world. And what I'm talking about is we're distracted with Russia and Ukraine. I understand during the week, American troops were attacked in Syria. Not many Americans know about that, but that happened. Yesterday, the day before, I got in touch, or a news media in Europe got in touch with me and wanted me to comment on the Turkish airstrike against Kurds in Iraq. I mean, so we're being distracted here when we should be paying attention to what? Our own border. We should be paying attention. Yes, we are all paying attention to the Mexican border. But little did the American society know that there is a threat on our northern border. But now they're beginning to know, and they're beginning to understand that we truly have probably, Dave, and weigh in on this, I would say, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, a more clear and present danger in what Trudeau is doing in Canada, insofar as the danger to the United States of America, than that of what we see coming across the border in Mexico.
Well, I think it's the security of all Canadians are affected. I think definitely the Americans as well. I mean, you got to consider what's been going on here as far as our human rights are concerned. I mean, we probably had more human rights under the Magna Carta than we have right now, and we've had different people taking. There was in 1948 there was the human rights, which is global. We have the right to freedom and security, and all of those things are being compromised. Now, if you look at the definition, if there's people in Canada that still think we don't have a problem with their freedom and liberty, and you just look at the definition of freedom, the ability to act or to change without constraint. And as far as liberty is concerned, it means freedom from oppressive restriction, a right to engage in a certain actions without control or interference by government or others. You in the U.S. and us in Canada, that's exactly we've lost our liberties over time, and we have to get it back. My parents both served in the armed forces during the war. They fought for our freedoms, and I feel really strongly about it.
Well, a couple of things we're going to do. We talk about what type of action we should take. Beginning next week, maybe this week, folks, Campaign for America is going to start to put commercials out across social media world in support of the Canadian people, as well as the American people, as partners in the fight for freedom and liberty. So you're going to be seeing 60 or 90-minute commercials, perhaps starting within the next week or so. That's number one. The reason why we're doing that is we're going to start to heighten public awareness in a more aggressive pace. Secondly, we're going to let candidates for office know, like I did last night with the gubernatorial candidate for the state of Illinois. I have one coming on tonight for Congress regarding Georgia. But as these candidates come on, we're going to talk to them, whether it be on or off the air, about what's going on in Canada. And we're going to want to hear some positions regarding that. And a lot of them, and I don't want to embarrass them, Dave, I think a lot of them don't know, but once they are aware, they're really horrified. I mean, they're really, it's like talking to us about a family member that's in trouble. Canada is our closest ally,
yes,
our best friends. I live in New Jersey. Do you know, Dave, I'm sure you know this, that during the summer, when I'm headed down to South Jersey, I see Canadian flags all over the place. Your residents are here vacationing on our seashore. And it's almost like you feel like you've crossed the border into Canada. This is how proud of their country they are and how close we are to them. So I kind of feel we have an obligation as Americans, as friends, and as the fighters for freedom worldwide to work with you. And we're going to do that. So that's one part of the action plan we're going to do. We're going to get the word out here. Number two, I promised some time ago, folks, and we're going to do it. We're getting a letter together. We're going to be very diplomatic in the wording, of course. That's going to go to the International Association of Police Chiefs. Why? We're going to ask for them to live up to their mission statement to ensure that professionalism of police officers worldwide is observed. So we're going to send them evidence of what had happened to law-abiding citizens in Canada, including the arrests. We're going to send them some videos, and we're going to ask them to do an inquiry and to help the Canadian police forces, help them in their training with regard to their citizens. Of course, what I want to say in the letter, I can't. It'll turn them right off. But me being a 38-year veteran of a police department and a commander of a police division, I'm hoping that shows that has some weight. I really want them to do an inquiry. We'll see if they live up to their mission statement. But David, at the very least, they're going to be made aware of that problem. And I'm going to, this is why I want to collaborate with you on letters to some of these members of parliament. I want them to know what we're doing. I know some of them, not them physically, maybe some of them are watching, but I've got some information that some of the staff members of your parliament are watching this broadcast. And what they're finding out is, no, we're not calling names. We're not being derogatory in any way. We're taking a lawful, methodical, strategic approach towards this. But I think what they're finding out, and they're learning based on some information I'm getting, that it's not going to go well for them. It really isn't, let alone in Canada. I mean, you all will take care of that, I'm sure, with regard to your elections. But on the worldwide stage, and Dave, just one thing before we talk about the action plan, I'd like you to expound upon. Americans didn't know this until I think you mentioned it on one of our broadcasts, but now I'm getting more questions about it. Is it true that members of the European Parliament called out Justin Trudeau as a dictator?
Absolutely. And actually, an MP within a conservative MP in our parliament called him. Well, he said he met the definition of a dictator, which is, I mean, it's factual. But there's actually a woman. So they have members of parliament in the EU, and I believe there's 750 seats there, roughly. And there was a woman, I think her name is Christine Anderson. I believe she's an MP from. So it's the European Union, so I think she's from actually Germany. But there was 4 or 5 of them that called them that, and they came out and they said when Trudeau was making his speech, they said that he got a standing ovation. That's what it said on the left-wing corporate media. The Canadian broadcasting said that he had a standing ovation. He had no standing ovation. There's 90% of them left. They said he had no business even speaking to them. They asked him if spare us and leave. They asked him to, so this is absolutely true.
Well, if we could get the names of those people who are supporting the people, and I'll tell you why, we do a lot of writing letters to the opposition, but we need to let those who support the Canadian people know that there are millions of people with them. It's a lonely journey, folks. Believe me, when you're standing up, and I know you know this, fighting for your rights, but when you've got elected officials in Europe and in your own country and here in America who are willing to stand up and call out the establishment, it takes a lot of guts and courage. So they need to know that we're with them. All right, let's talk about a bit of an action plan. First, Dave, we have sent out a request, and I understand I've been invited, as well as you, to a lot of living rooms and dining rooms and coffee clutches with Canadian citizens. So could you share with the people in Canada and the Americans, my brethren here in America, listen to this, because we're doing this in America. We've done it for quite some time. Let's talk about going to people's homes. What are we doing, and what are we doing?
Well, it was your idea, but I think what it was is that there's people that are in Canada that are very interested in what you have to say. They believe that you can help us and give us some structure as to what you've done in the U.S. and how we can do it, how we can apply it here in Canada, and probably just hear from people. If people are comfortable with just sharing with us, they'll have an opportunity to ask you some questions, and we see it maybe as a presentation, and how we can. People have emailed. Some of the emails say, "Well, how can we help?" They're willing. They just don't know how to help. So we could put some words around it and a bit of structure and a framework, so that we just say, like whether it be starting with the local elections that we talked about. How about just tuning in and seeing what are in the council minutes? You can actually do it online. You don't have to go physically there. But if you wanted to go and get a sense of what's going on in your town or your local council, why not just go in and sit down and get familiar with it? Because if the elections are coming up, you might just want to be a councillor. If you're service minded and you want to get involved, there's also how can we? I guess something that's been on my mind is, how can we unite the right? We've fractured the right to the point where we're going to have a difficult time defeating the liberals in the next election if we can't get united. And there's a whole lot of good people out there. We have a lot of commonality. We have to find a way of uniting, and each of them are taking shots at the other, and it's a person doesn't even know which party to join right now. So if you can imagine our Conservative Party the way it was previously, imagine it was your Republican Party was running by Mitt Romney instead of Donald Trump. So that's sort of, and that's a good comparison. I think if Canadians get a sense, if you want to know, you can look it up. But you get a sense. I think you understand what what is that. So we have to. How can we get good people? And I think it's a matter of vetting people and getting good candidates and getting people that are service minded. What about getting housewives, farmers, truckers. I mean, they would do amazing as politicians, as opposed to being a politician. Why don't we say none of?
It's amazing you called out housewives, farmers, truckers, etc.
Yeah,
Because the first commercial that I'm putting out really calls them out and lets
yeah,
the people know and let the government leaders know that there is a powerful grassroots movement that can't be stopped. So here's what we're doing, folks. As Dave said, we will come to your home via Zoom or via a social media platform. Now, what we're asking you to do is email Dave, campaignforamerica.com. You go to our contact bar there and let us know that you'd like to have a meeting at your home, your den, your living room, your kitchen, wherever you want it. Get 2 or 3 family members, 4 or 5 maybe, neighbors together, break out a cup of coffee and we'll sit and have a conversation. Yep. We'll take the time and have a conversation with you. We'll want to hear from you and the next step will be, what can you do? Right, Dave? That's the question you're getting. How can
absolutely.
I help? Yep. Exactly.
And
so we have an action plan that we will share around that table. And Dave, we could pretty much leave it up to the people when they want to do it. Folks, we're going to, listen, here's the deal with this, all right? People have asked me, well, gee, how much time can we spend? We're going to do whatever it takes. So we're committed to this. To me, Dave, being in the military and on a police force, I was always fighting wars, whether it be a war here on the streets, whether it be in the military. So you can't schedule, what type of action you're going to take at what time. But you schedule it. You tell us, look, I can get people on a Monday, a Wednesday, Saturday afternoon. We will work, right, Dave? We'll work hard to meet your needs. And is that the way we're going to do it, Dave?
Absolutely. And the other thing I was noticing in the comments that come up, and I do read them, there's been suggestions of people that might come on your show, and some of them are very good. There's the powershift.ca, and there's a few others that have been suggested, and I read those, and I have reached out to some of them. I just wanted to let you know that we're not ignoring it. Those people that are, that I'm aware of that you're submitting, even in the emails, there's some suggestions of who might come on the program, and then I'll certainly reach out to those people and give them on to you, Lieutenant.
And what we're going to do, Dave had mentioned to me about a platform that you all use in Canada. So we'll probably, what's that, Telegram or something?
Telegram, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you use it down there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in a big way, yeah.
Okay, so what's going to happen, folks, is Dave will host the meetings. I'll be there, okay? And then we'll have a discussion with you. So we'll come to your house, okay? So take a little time. You might want to invite parents. We have what they call the PTA. Do you have that in Canada, Parents Associations?
I'm not sure. Okay. I believe I don't think the structure like that. No.
Paid your dues in life with kids and moving on. I get it. Yeah. Okay. Well, those of you who are parents, if you have parent associations, if you belong to clubs, any type of political entity, look at. We had an American citizen put a big screen up in a veterans hall and piped us in. We spoke to a couple of hundred people. So it's something that we're going to leave to you all. And we're going to give you action plans. We're going to give you factual information. And that is what the opposition, hates. I don't use that word often, but they hate it because it disrupts, right, Dave? Any misinformation they're sending out. And what did you say? Truth. You used the scripture. What was that scripture, Dave?
Well, Ephesians 6, the first bit of armor that we put on is we gird our waist with truth. So that's our starting point. Anything we say, we have to be truthful. So you talked about the armor and the helmet of, the helmet of salvation and that, but the first article is truth. So that's Ephesians 6.
Good. Excellent. Now, somebody wrote on here, I'm watching the news feed here, I'm watching it here, but this was caught my eye, and I'm glad they said this. We have to stop thinking and speaking negative. Now, it's interesting because I had a conversation yesterday, in fact, even as early as this morning with someone about that very topic, that we're so inundated with negative news, negative media. Everything we talk about is negative. And now I'm thinking, you know what? What if we did this? In fact, Dave, Charles Spurgeon, he was a great evangelist back in the 1800s. And I read in the devotionals that I read at 5 o'clock in the morning, he talked about that. And we become so obsessed with it, before you know it, we become negative. So what we need to do is become positive. Difficult, you bet it is, boy, I'll tell you. But we turn our fears to faith, we put our faith to action, and then we start talking about what we were talking about tonight. Look, we have an action plan. Look, we're going to be taking action here in the United States to help the Canadian people as well as ourselves and to heighten public awareness worldwide.
Right.
All this comes about from whom? From you, the people, from the grassroots people. So, Dave, I think we're in pretty good shape at this point.
Right.
So now, Dave, before he says goodnight to us, you could reach him, campaignforamerica.com. That's our website. We're having everything go through our website, folks, that we don't lose it, because I've gotten thousands of emails, and sometimes, a lot of important, they're all important, but they get buried here and there. But once they go through that website, they're going to be archived, and then they're going to be forwarded to Dave. He is our Campaign for America Director of Public Policy up there on political affairs. So he's going to be taking care of all that. So if you want us to come to your home, open up the door, and here's what I got. I want to show you this, folks. This here, I think I showed you this once before. This is a coffee cup that my wife got me. Yeah, I drink a lot of coffee. Let freedom ring, right? Let freedom ring. So we're all going to make sure that we let freedom ring. That's kind of big. Dave, she told me when she bought it, when it was picked up, I guess the cashier said, no, that's not for coffee. That's for beer.
Yeah.
I don't know what would happen to me if I drank that much beer.
That's too much. One thing I was going to mention to you before I leave is I use this for to make a fire in the I don't know if I can see it or not. So this is talking about fear and being negative. So this is something I think it's only good enough for to line the bird cage or perhaps use it to light a fire like I do. But it talks about locked and loaded. Health officials ready to pull the trigger on new restrictions in Manitoba. This is old news. This is an old newspaper. But I was just thinking about how controlled we are as far as the fear. And people are often driven out of fear. You're never going to make a good decision out of fear. So I would say to you, turn that fear into righteous anger and say, listen, I'm not gonna be fearful. I mean, Jesus gave us an example when he flipped over the table of the money changers in the temple. So it's okay to be that way when something's wrong. But I think what we have to do is that we have a problem and we have a solution, and we make it like a sandwich. So we can deal with it one bit at a time. But I think we have to realize how we're being manipulated in the media, and they're basically threatening to I mean, this is what they've done for the last 2 years, threatening. So the other thing I wanted to just quickly touch on is, I know somebody brought it up in the chats about the legislation that was passed in Alberta with Bill 100, Bill 1 actually, where that was the one about you're not allowed to peacefully protest. So that goes right against our Charter of Freedoms. So we wouldn't be able to be on a street corner, a street, a road, a sidewalk, private land, public land. So basically, you've eliminated the ability to protest. So, you talk about things being dire. How would you like to be next to a country that doesn't permit their citizens to voice themselves without censorship on the internet? They don't allow people to protest, and even though it's peaceful. So, and the one last thing I was going to say is, when you're submitting that letter to the law enforcement agency, you might want to consider putting in a link, and especially the link about the people that brought horseback, the police that brought horseback into Ottawa and trampled that poor woman with the walker. Now, you ask about serve and protect. Would it even make sense to bring a team or a bunch of horses into where people are peacefully protesting, and it trampled a man and a woman? She had to go to hospital. So she was nearly killed.
Dave, that's a good idea. And let me tell you, I did show that video to New York City police officers who are handlers of horses and use them. Some of them were appalled. We don't even do that here against violent protesters, let alone what went on there. So, but that's a good idea. Let's do that. Yeah. We'll talk about adding links to the letter.
Put the links in there.
We'll read the letter to you all. We will publicize that letter. Yeah. So we believe in transparency. Well, that's it, Dave. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to go over a few things with regard to some of the problems we're having here in America. I'm supposed to have another guest coming on at about 7, right about now. So we'll see if he got the link. If he didn't, we had to put things together real quick here because we had some schedule changes. But Thursday night, folks, please spread the word. Pastor Arthur will be on with us. Quite a gentleman, quite a story. And then Dave will be on with us every other Thursday. But Dave, the good thing is I like the idea about having your citizens come on and speak to the issue of how they're feeling and what's happening. Sometimes it's good to have mom and dad and
for sure,
aunts and uncles come on. So that's good. But I want to get a few of your parliamentary members on, especially from the other side. I don't know if they have that much courage or not, but we'll take a shot at it.
Yep. Have that note for myself. I'll take care of that.
All right, Dave Dolan, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you real soon, buddy. And
have a great week.
Digging out yet? Are you digging out? Or you got
we're digging out. It's melting, but I think we're getting another Colorado low, so we're blaming it on you again.
All right, just keep it up there. I want spring to come. All right, God bless you, Dave. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, folks. So Dave Dolan, our Director of Public Policy and Political Affairs up there in Canada for Campaign for America. Now, before I go, we were going to take a little bit of a commercial break, but I'm going to purposely run over a few minutes. We're waiting for our next guest to join us, if he could get on. There have been some communication problems here, and we'll see how this goes. But just to give you an idea of some of for the Americans watching tonight, a couple things happened this week, and I'm sure some of the Canadians will be appalled at what you're going to hear if you haven't heard it yet. So we have this shooting at a mall here in the United States, which seems to be common these days, and I'll tell you why it's common. So the guy shot up a bunch of people. He was arrested. He was brought to the courts, and the judge decides from these reports to set bail at $25,000, and then if bail is set, the guy goes home. Think about this. The guy goes home, but not only does he go home, they put an ankle bracelet on him so he could go to work. Now, do you really want to go to your place of employment with a guy that allegedly takes a gun and shoots people and gets arrested? Do you want to go to that workplace? But you see, this is what happens when liberals and Democrats, socialists, and communists take control of our country. I've got to tell you, so many people in America were appalled at this. There's nothing we can do about it yet. And I say yet because we're doing a lot about a lot of things, and I'll get to that in a moment. So here you have a guy that commits a shooting like this, and after all that's being said and done, all right, with regard to violence in America, a judge decides, well, you could go home. Just post the bail and go home. Now, here's the kicker of all this. So you get Joe Biden, and you get Democrats across the country say that they know what the root cause of all the gun violence is in America. They have said this, folks, since I was a patrolman walking the streets in the 70s. The problem, they say, is what? Guns. It's guns. We got guns all over the place. That's what they say. We have to have gun control. If we have gun control, then you're going to see crime go down. Well, I'm going to absolutely destroy that argument right now. Number one, some of the toughest gun control laws in this country are in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. The gun violence there is completely, totally out of control. They can't even handle the amount of shootings that are going on and the amount of crime going on the streets of Washington, D.C. Now, we see the same situation going on in Chicago, where the gun violence in Chicago is so bad, so terrible, that the situation there is out of control. All right, folks, we're going to shift to Jake Evans. He was just on, and we just lost him. We hope that Jake comes back. I just saw him on the screen, so we'll wait for him to come back. So now you've got guns violence out of control in Chicago, Illinois, in Washington, D.C., and other Democrat states. All right, other Democrat states and cities. So you know what? It isn't guns. It's the liberal judges releasing criminals. All right, now we're going to switch over here and stay on board. I think you're going to enjoy hearing this candidate for Congress, Jake Evans of the 6th Congressional District here in the United States of America in Georgia. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing today? Glad to join you.
Well, it's a real pleasure. You know, Campaign for America, we're on a roll here, buddy. We're going to be highlighting candidates like you who are America First candidates who believe in individual rights. Now, Jake, a couple of things, and I'm going to give you the time you need to talk. Just to give you an idea, a few weeks ago, we had 240,000 people viewing our broadcast over a period of a week or two. We're averaging 10 to 15,000 a week across 6 social media platforms. So we have a wide audience. But here's something that I think you'll find interesting. We have thousands of Canadians watching, thousands.
Okay.
And the reason is because of what Trudeau is doing in Canada with regard to policies that are really hurting their individual rights. So now we have you on, and it's a pleasure to have you. So, Jake, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share with the viewing audience a little bit about your background, but more importantly, what are you going to do when you get elected? Not if, but when.
That's right. Well, good. Well, thanks so much for having me on. And my background is a constitutional lawyer. So I'm a lawyer that fought for my convictions, what I believe in, fought for religious liberties. I've represented a number of churches against liberal cities to ensure that the churches have the ability to practice religion. And unfortunately, here in Georgia, there's many liberal cities that want to take religion out of our society, out of our schools. I fought for election integrity. I'm actually the only lawyer to overturn 2 elections in the same race. And I fought all the way before the United States Supreme Court to ensure only legal votes should be counted in 2020. And former chairman of Georgia's Ethics Commission, which regulates campaign finance here in Georgia. So took down many powerful politicians that violated the law. Stacey Abrams is one of them. Paul Howard, he's a former DA in Fulton. So I'm fighting for the heart, soul, and fabric of the country. I firmly believe we need a new generation of bold and afraid conservative leaders that aren't going to be weak-kneed, that aren't going to kowtow, and are going to be fighting D.C. to get this country back on track.
All right, now, Jake, the situation in Canada, and I'm going to mention that a little bit because you mentioned the magic word. You're a constitutional lawyer. There were truckers protesting there. The Trudeau government has actually, I have these proposed laws in front of me. They're looking to actually regulate and prohibit hate speech, and they want the government to control their internet. They want the government to have total control of their communications. They want to guarantee basic income to certain people. People who do not get vaccinated are not allowed to travel. I mean, it's really bad there. And the reason why I bring this up, you're going to be a United States congressman. And as you know, and I'm sure you're very attuned as to what's going on at the southern border. But when you hear things like this happening on our northern border, and being a constitutional lawyer, how do you feel about that?
It's just terrifying. I mean, it sounds like Big Brother tyranny to me. I mean, I am 100% in favor of less government, getting government out of our lives. If you give government that kind of control, the oppressive regime that you potentially allow to be imposed on society is very, very dangerous. And I'll tell you, here in America, we are watching closely what's happening in Canada. I mean, we got to have the right type of in my opinion, conservatives that are taking government out of our lives, that are returning the power of choice to the individual, to parents in their schools, and away from government. But if you allow any government to have that type of power, you almost inevitably are going to allow for corruption and something we've got to fight strongly and heavily against.
Now, let's talk about your district. I know some people in Georgia, all right? In fact, I got to tell you, is Atlanta in your district? Is Atlanta?
North Atlanta is, yes.
All right, I'll tell you a little story real quick. Every Wednesday, I'm on the air with Real America's Voice. I've done a lot of hits daily with Newsmax, One America News. I mean, they're all great stations. But I bring up the Real America's Voice Wednesday broadcast at 12 noon because I'm actually debating a Democrat who ran for mayor. A great guy. I mean, he's an individual. His name is Robin Burrow. All right, Robin Burrow. He's a terrific gentleman, and we civilly, all right, debate issues. But he is leaning more towards the conservative issues, and I bring that up because I get the impression that there are Democrats, and I've spoke to a few others in your district that truly want change, and they're not finding it with the party of JFK. If you know what I mean. By the way, you weren't even born when Kennedy was president, right? Look at this. Look at my hair, folks. Look at this guy. I remember when I had hair that color. But the party of JFK, as I'm sure you know, was truly a party representative of the people. Then when that changed, guys like me and Ron Reagan decided to hitch our wagon with a new horse called the GOP. But my point is this. It seems like history is repeating itself, that the Democrat Party in America and in Georgia has been hijacked by a socialist communist agenda that is destructive to all people. So my point is, I've heard from Democrats who they're voting for you. I've heard them actually tell me that they're going to register. I don't know. I think there's an amount of time. In fact, one guy told me, "Oh, I'm going to register as a Republican, vote for this guy Evans, and then I'm going to re-register as a Democrat, but still vote for him because I won't have to declare my party." I mean, he's explaining the whole plan to me.
Good for him. Smart guy.
So what is it, and you hear people say, well, I'm sure you're opposite. Well, we got X amount of money. We got all the money. We got the big name endorsements. You know what I found in this 21st century? It's not the money. It's the message. And I'm hearing that you have the message in Georgia. So give us a little bit of that message. Let's talk about crime. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, well, I agree with that 100%. And I will first, you're exactly right. I mean, Biden hijacked the American presidency, in my opinion. He campaigned on a message of unity, of rhetoric, or of unity, inclusivity. He has been anything but that. He has been a big government, big correct, progressive Democrat, which is completely and totally taken over our individual liberties. And I don't think there's many folks that can disagree with that. The additional fact is, look at the disaster we've got, the disaster domestically with inflation, the disaster internationally with Ukraine. And so Democrats can't argue with the results right now. And I think they are flipping sides. They want to get America back on track. They know that conservative principles under Trump delivered for the best years we've had in a very, very long time. But for crime, we've got to get back to backing the blue. We've got to get back to boldly supporting our law enforcement, supporting our border agents, making sure that they've got the moral support that they need, making sure that we don't have dangerous drug cartels coming into our local communities. That's what makes America safe. That's what makes the 6th District. My district is a very suburban district. It has the best schools in the state, high-income areas, and they want to get back to ensuring that parents have the choice and their communities is safe and their law enforcement is supported.
Now, some of the, I know some pastors down in your district, and some of them have addressed a minority situation where they feel that they were betrayed by the Democrat Party. And they've talked about this one thing about crime, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. They want to see real, live, truthful community policing back. They love the idea of cops walking the streets and their children saying hello to Officer Joe or Officer Susan. Do you foresee being a congressman, starting to send funding where it should be in areas of community policing as part of an overall, let's bring funds back to the police? That's important to them. I just lost your audio. Yeah. Okay.
All right, there we go. I had a call come in there.
Okay.
But yes, we in the community, absolutely. I mean, you go to restaurants, particularly in my district, law enforcement are praised. Law enforcement, the sacrifices that they're making for our community, putting their lives on the line. And the reality, if you look at the BLM movement, that have totally tried to delegitimize the work, the risk that they take on a daily basis, is something that we can have no part of. We've got to make sure that the wokeism in America, which the Democrats use to divide our future generations, is removed from society. We get back to our founding principles of faith, of community, of freedom. And if we're able to do that, we will create a more resurgent and confident America that all patriots are proud to be a part of.
With regard to criminal justice reform, I just shared with the people, and we have a problem here in New Jersey, where in New Jersey, the police are no longer allowed to chase felons. No more motor vehicle chases. There was an incident here in New Jersey. A guy had a gun, had hollow point bullets. He got in the car, took off. The cops couldn't chase him. So as a congressman on a federal level with regard to crime reform bills, this idea of bail reform and the packages that the Democrats give us, I feel when you get into Congress, you're going to have a majority, that the Republicans are going to have a majority. So the question people ask me is, well, these guys get elected, we put them in office, and before you know it, they're not living up to the expectations they gave us. But just by talking to you and learning a little bit about you, I don't think you're going to let us down.
No, absolutely not. I'm campaigning hard and strong on a bold and unafraid message. I believe firmly that we need Republicans have the potential to destroy this country. We need Republicans that are as dangerous to the U.S. as Democrats. We can no longer continue to elect wolves in sheep's clothing. We've got to have folks that are willing to put their life on the line. That's what I've done, fighting for election integrity, put my bar license on the line, fighting against powerful politicians as Georgia State Ethics Commission. And that's the type of boldness, that's the type of confidence that we've got to have, because the reality is the deck is stacked against Republicans. All of our major institutions, the media, our research institutions, big tech, they are out to help one party and one party only, and that's the Democrats. And if we don't elect the right type of members of Congress that are going to take them head on, and I've been very clear from day one, I want to disband the January 6th Commission. I want to launch an investigation to determine the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to launch an investigation into big tech. America deserves transparency, and we've got to have confident folks that have the skill sets to take these people on.
Now, something that I've been talking about, and as we kind of wind down here, I'm going to extend a few more minutes, that is really on the hearts of a lot of Americans. I was in the Air Force during Vietnam. I served 25 years in the Navy, retired as a lieutenant commander through Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, and on and on and on. What I see today happening is Joe Biden dragging us pretty close to a ground war against Russia. I think the American people deserve to understand that we do have a history of becoming involved in foreign interventions that we should not be involved in. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that we shouldn't send arms and ammunition to the Ukrainians, or any country, all right, that's being attacked, which civilians are being slaughtered. I mean, I'm all for that. My concern is this, and then my question to you, is that Joe Biden, before November of 2022, may end up dragging us into a ground war with Russia. If he does that, it's Vietnam all over again. So if this is going on, and you're in Congress, and I'm sure we have a majority, can we count on you as saying, look, we're going to put a stop to U.S. ground troops entering into a war? I mean, it was George Washington who warned us not to get entangled in foreign affairs with regard to conflicts with other countries. Trade's fine, economy's fine, but war is not fine. So I think there are a lot of people that would like to hear from, because a lot of candidates don't talk about this, but a lot of people are watching now. I got a news feed here. A lot of people from your state watching. A lot of Americans are watching. So on this issue, can you please weigh in a little bit about that, so we don't hear that from candidates?
Well, yes, I will put America first. I've made very clear we need to be worried more about our southern border than the Ukrainian border. We got to get out of these forever wars. Forever wars just burden the American budget. They also purposely put American lives on the line. And so I am very proud to make sure that as a member of Congress, I will fight every day to pull us back from being involved with senseless wars on continents that are far away from ours, and making sure that America and our southern border and our local communities are put first. And that's something that I will never waver on. Jake,
you're a breath of fresh air. I got to tell you something humorous. So we sent out a message that Jake Evans will be on the air tonight with us. Now, I'm told that Jake Evans in Canada is a hockey player.
Yeah, he actually is. I get Google alerts for him. He's a good.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of emails. Oh, Jake, I didn't know Jake was in America running for Congress. This is unbelievable.
That is awesome.
Saying, gee, do I have the right Jake Evans coming on?
He's a good player. Hopefully, I'm as good as Congress as he is at hockey.
That's great. Well, I'm going to tell you one more thing before you go. Your staff, the people responsible for getting you on the air, I find a common thread, which is so wonderful with the candidates that they're sending to us, like yourself. You have a story, really, of courage, of you mentioned it, and I had a fellow from Illinois on last night and others. All of you are saying something that I haven't heard from other candidates, that you put your words into action. You did put a lot on the line with the things that you did even before you decided to run for Congress. So this is refreshing to a lot of people, let me tell you.
Oh, good. Well, that's what I like to hear. And I believe, in my core, we have to have those type of convicted leaders that are willing to show actions speak louder than words. There's a lot of folks that speak the rhetoric. At the end of the day, as Benjamin Franklin said, well done is better than well said. And we've got to have folks that are going to show, they're going to put their life on the line to fight for this country, because I'll tell you, it's worth fighting for.
Well, Jake, before you go, I'll let you know this, that you're going to be hearing from us. We'll be in touch with your team there. If I get a chance to come down to Georgia, and I've done this around the country, I'll come and I'll help rally the troops and help raise the funds for you.
Please do. We would love to have you. Absolutely love to have you.
We do a lot of speaking around the country. And we do that because we're in this for America. And I know you are too. Well, it's great to see you there. I guess I'm at an age where I can say, young man, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jake. What do you think of that, folks? Huh? That is a real American hero. A real good guy, right? That's what we like. Grassroots people, both in Canada and here in the United States. But to my Canadian friends, did you hear what he said? He knew what was going on in Canada, and he even brought it up to the effect that he's going to help heighten the awareness and address some of those issues. So you see, a word of encouragement. When we talked about earlier, we're so inundated with negative stuff. We are, because we don't hear much positive stuff, right? We don't hear much of that. But let's remember this. There is a lot of positive energy going on right now in the United States of America and in Canada. And what's bothering the opposition that we have in America and the opposition you're having in Canada is that we are now joined together. What do you think of that? Together. That's something they never expected. So be on the lookout for the commercials we'll start running regarding the freedom fighters here in America and in Canada as one team for one cause. And that one cause is what? Let freedom ring. Thanks for joining our special broadcast here on a Tuesday night. Boy, we went a whole hour, so that was pretty good. We'll see you Thursday night, 7 p.m. right here with Pastor Arthur. And I'm going to urge a lot of American citizens to watch that night, because we've learned a lot here in this country from our Canadian friends right across the border. And I'm hoping that you're learning a lot from those of us who live here in the United States of America. Thank you all. And remember, just before you go to sleep tonight, there is a best-selling book that I'm going to just show you. I'm not going to expound upon it, but it is a best-selling book. It's worth your while taking a look at it. And here it is, a bestseller on the bestseller list since the day it was written. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Canada and all freedom-loving people around the world. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.